In late August of 1979, a resort in the New Jersey Pinelands named Camp Happy Trails was beset by a hammer-wielding mass murderer named Hans Metzger. Metzger, sporting a ghastly metal pig mask, executed the campers and partially devoured their bodies, in what became known as the bloodiest murder spree in New Jersey history. Although most of the campers perished during the rampage, a girl named Sheila Smalley fought back, and she became known as the final girl of Camp Happy Trails. What follows is her harrowing story for survival.
The Pine Barrens of New Jersey encompasses over 1.1 million acres of woodlands that span across 7 counties. Though this forest is in the heart of America's most densely populated state, the land is mostly rural and dotted with ruins of former mill and mining settlements and abandoned towns. This heavily forested stretch of the state is also known for an abundance of ghost stories and supernatural sightings. Several national publications have listed this scenic location among the most haunted places in the country. The Lenni Lenape Indians were the first to inhabit the area. Their oldest tribal legends told stories of malevolent ghosts and ancient demons that indwelled the region. When the Europeans arrived in the late 1600s, the tribal elders warned the settlers to avoid the Pinelands at all costs, but most dismissed the warnings as nothing more than the superstitious ramblings of heathens. However, soon after settlements were constructed, people began to disappear inside the dank and mysterious woodlands, and this phenomenon has continued on into modernity.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Solo Gamers Club. Thank you for joining me this evening. Tonight, we'll be exploring the latest addition to my gaming collection, a title called Final Girl. So far, I've purchased the core box, along with the 5 feature films from Season 1. In addition, I've obtained the player mats, the lore and scenario book, the gruesome death books, and the Terror from Above Vignette. Player mats will be very handy in organizing the game. They're rubber backed and stitched, so it's pretty good quality. I'm very happy I was able to get these. The lore and scenario book offers us background on the different killers in the game, along with 5 separate scenarios that can be played as a campaign of sorts against that particular killer. The back of the book, it also gives us background on the different Final Girl characters. And then we have 5 of these gruesome death books, one for each of the various locations included in the first season. And these offer thematic background to flesh out a narrative as you're playing the game. When a victim is killed, this gives you a nice background as to how exactly their deaths occurred in different situations during the game. So it's a nice supplement that adds a nice thematic veneer to the game. And finally, I picked up a vignette. It's called Terror from Above, and this basically included an extra Final Girl along with a supplement that can be used in any location, and it somewhat parallels the famous movie The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock. So it's a nice little supplement. The beauty of this game system is it offers almost limitless replayability, as each location can be paired up with a killer and a Final Girl, and it'll offer 330 separate combinations, which is fantastic. As the subscribers of this channel probably know, I love randomness and loads of narrative, and this game system offers both in abundance. I've created 3 tables to help me in determining our starting Final Girl, location, and killer. I'll bring those charts up on the screen, and I've used these to determine the dynamics of our first game that we're going to be playing. I've made the required rolls and I've determined that we'll be controlling the final girl, Sheila. The location will be Camp Happy Trails and the killer will be Hans the Butcher Metzger. I'll begin by outlining the setup procedure and then we'll have a short discussion about the mechanics. So let's get started. Final Girl is a solo strategy board game where the player takes on the role of a female protagonist that must confront an evil killer. Each game is reminiscent of a feature horror film, including a cast, a spooky location, and a deadly villain. We'll begin the setup by getting out our core box and the box that'll contain both our killer and our location. In this case, we're using Hans the Butcher, so he's included on this box. And on the other side of the box is our location. That's Camp Happy Trails. Now, these boxes are magnetic closure on them, so it's very simple to take these off and get what you need out of the box. In this case, that has our map on it, Camp Happy Trails, and then all of the cards and tokens that we would need for that location. The other side of the box has our killer in it. In this case, it's Hans the Butcher. So we'll open the box up, and that will give us the information that we need for Hans the Butcher. Has his special cards, and if there were any other things that are related to him would be in this box. So we're going to place these boxes off to the side, and it'll give us all of the cards and tokens that we're going to need to play the game. The core box will have all of our other items that we'll need, which will be basically our action cards and things of that nature. We'll begin the setup by deploying the player mats to the center of the table. Incidentally, the player mats are not necessary to play the game, but they keep things organized in a very nice way, so it's definitely worth it to try to get those if you can. But the game can be played without the player mats. Now we'll take the card for the final girl that we've selected, and we're going to place it in the designated spot with the side showing the victim's outlines on the top. Then we'll place our chunky dice in the slots provided. Those will be used during the game to resolve various actions. They're basically 6-sided dice with successes on a 5 or 6, partial success on a 3 or 4, and failure on 1 or 2. Next, we'll place our killer board that we've selected and place that in the assigned location. This will provide us with the killer's name and portrait, along with his starting statistics and his bloodlust track. Next is our location board. We'll place that in the assigned area. It gives us basically the map of the area that we're going to be operating in, along with spaces for item decks and the setup card. Then we take the deck of the killer's finale cards and we give those a shuffle, and we're going to place one face down in the finale location. We'll do the same with the killer's dark power. Shuffle those up and provide him with a dark power. Then we're going to take the terror cards from the killer and combine those with the terror cards from the location. We're going to shuffle those together, and then we're going to count out a total of 10 cards. The rest of the cards will go back to the box, sight unseen. Next, we take the location's items deck, shuffle that, and we're going to deal out a total of 12 item cards, 4 in each of the 3 decks, and those correspond to locations on the map: the cabins, the dock, and the utility shed. Once those item cards have been dispersed, 4 in each pile, we're going to reveal the top card from each deck. We have the pepper spray at the cabins, a flashlight at the dock, and a lucky rabbit's foot at the utility shed. Then we shuffle the location's setup card, and we're going to draw one, and that will tell us how to set up the map. The title of that card is Capture the Flag. That'll tell us the location of the final girl, the killer, and the starting victim locations. Using the setup card, we've placed our starting victims, the starting location of the final girl, and the killer. Then we take the 9 black final health tokens from the core box, we randomize these, and then we're going to choose 2 of them, and then those will be placed, 1 for the killer and 1 for the final girl. We place one of those in the designated spot for the final girl, and the other one on the killer's board. The remaining tokens will be put back into the tray, sight unseen. Then we examine our final girl's card and we find out that she has a maximum of 6 health. So including the black final health token, we add enough standard tokens to equal, in this case, 6. So we'll be placing 5 standard health tokens underneath that black to make up the 6. And we'll do the same for the killer. His maximum health is 12, so we'll be placing 11 standard health tokens to equal 12 with his black final health token. Then we place the bloodlust marker at the lowest part of the track. The bloodlust marker will tell us the killer's movement and attack strength. And we place the cyan colored time marker on the starting space, which is 6 on the player board. And then we place the alternate killer meeple on the horror track at a point equal to what it says on the killer's card. In this case, it's in space 4. And we shuffle the location's event deck and we place them in the space provided. Then we take our action deck and we separate all of the zero-cost action cards. Those will form our hand for the first turn. We can tell the value of the card by the symbol in the lower right-hand corner. That's a time value. In this case, all of these are zero action cost action cards. The remaining cards we will separate by type and place them on the action card tableau. Some of the types of cards have 2 copies of them, others have just a single copy. And finally, we draw the top event card from the deck and resolve whatever it says. Card is entitled Fresh Meat. Welcome to Camp Happy Trails, where you'll make memories that will last until you die. Place 2 new victims at the cabins, 2 new victims at the dock, and 2 new victims at the fire pit. Discard this card. All right. So we'll place 2 victims at the cabins, 2 victims at the dock, and 2 victims at the fire pit. The game is now set, and we're ready to begin the first turn. Before we begin our playthrough, let's take a look at the turn sequence and some of the mechanics. Each turn begins with an action phase. In the action phase, we play cards that allow us to move, search for items, attack the killer, or rest and recover health. These actions require a horror roll to be performed. Results of 5 or 6 stars are considered successes. Rolls of 3 or 4 are considered partial successes that allow the player to discard 2 action cards from their hand to convert the die to a success. Rolls of 1 or 2 are failures and cannot be converted. The number of dice rolled during a horror roll are determined by the position of the horror marker on the horror track. Action cards with a blue background are reaction cards. They can only be played in reaction to an attack by the killer. Action cards may be discarded at any time before the end of the action phase to gain time on the time track. This is an important concept that is sometimes overlooked. Once the action phase ends, we enter the planning phase. During this phase, we'll spend our remaining time to purchase action cards from the tableau for use in the coming turn. The player may also claim any 0-point action cards for free, but just remember that the player's maximum hand limit is 10 cards. The killer phase is next, where the killer will resolve the killer action listed to the left of the finale card. Then the top terror card is drawn and resolved. This is followed by the panic phase, where victims that witness the murder of their colleagues panic and flee to random locations. The last phase is the upkeep phase, where a finale check is made. If there are no terror cards remaining in the terror deck, the killer's finale card is revealed. Then any required upkeep is performed as may be indicated by events, items, or special rules. Finally, the final girl may rearrange items from her backpack to her hands and vice versa. This is the only time that items may be adjusted from your inventory other than when a new item is gained. Now let's have a quick discussion on the mechanics of the game. It's clear that the player has control over the action cards they purchase and the timing in which they're used. What we don't have control over are events, terror cards, and horror rolls. There isn't much that can be done about the event and terror cards, but we can help to mitigate dice rolls by acquiring planning cards, which add dice to horror rolls, and close call cards that allow dice rerolls. The overall strength of the killer is measured by the bloodlust track. This controls their movement and attack values. The track rises each time a victim is killed, so it is important to save as many victims as possible to deny them to the killer and increase his bloodlust. Items are very important and can sometimes make the difference between winning and losing. Efforts should be made to acquire search action cards and to position the final girl into search spaces that contain critical items. Now, with all that behind us, let's get started. This is going to be my very first playing of the game, so we'll see how we do with this. With the addition of that event card that we pulled to start the game, that added a lot of potential victims for Hans, so I think we're going to concentrate on movement in the early part of the game and trying to rescue as many of these victims as possible. So I think what I'm going to do to start out right off the bat, I am going to discard 4 cards that I don't think I'm going to need. 2 focus, a short rest, and a weak attack, and that's going to allow us to raise our time value by 1 point for each card we discard, so that's going to move us up to 10. Now I'm going to play a walk card, and I'm going to attempt to move Sheila towards maybe this grouping of victims, possibly heading towards either the utility shed or the cabins maybe to try to get some kind of a item that will help us. So we're going to attempt to walk. Right now we have a horror value would allow us to roll 2 dice. Okay, and here's our roll. We ended up with 2 successes. 2 successes will allow us to move up to 2 spaces at the cost of 1 time. So we'll decrease our time value down to 9, and we can move 2 spaces now. So I think we'll have Sheila move past the cliffs and into this road space, and that will put us in position where we can either go towards the utility shed or head west towards the cabins. And I think I'm going to play another walk card. So we're going to roll our horror dice again and see what we get. 2 successes. That is amazing. So that gives us a total of 2 movement points for a cost of 1 time. We'll move the time down. Now we can move 2 spaces. And yeah, I think we're going to do that. I'm going to move into this space, picking up one of the victims and moving into the utility shed. We're always allowed to move up to 2 victims. So I think I could take both with me, but we have to try to get them to these exit spaces. So I think we'll just do it that way. And that is going to end my turn. My action turn is over. Now we move to the planning phase, and we're able to spend these time points that we've accumulated to purchase cards from the tableau. And we have a total of 8 points. So definitely movement is going to be of the issue. So I'm going to purchase 2 sprint cards. That's going to cost us a total of 4 points. So we'll move our time track from 8 down to 4. I'm also going to purchase a search card for 2 points. Moves us down to 2. And finally, I'm going to spend my last 2 points, and we're going to purchase 2 of these close call cards, and that allows us some reroll action on the dice. And since this game is so dependent on dice, we want to be able to always have options where we can either reroll or add dice. So I think that'll be very important. So we'll take the 2 close call cards, moving our value down to 0. And that is going to end our planning phase. We reset our time tracker to 6. And then we return all the cards that were in our discard pile. And these are all 0 action cards. So those will all go in the 0 action cards portion of the tableau. And we'll get those cards back for free next turn. Now it's phase 3, and that's the killer phase. The first step is we resolve the killer's action, and that's the action that is listed on his finale card, the upper left-hand corner, and that says target a victim or final girl and attack. And that means that it has to be in the space that he currently occupies. There is none. So now we move on to the second portion of that phase, and we're going to draw a terror card. And the terror card is revealed to be a minor dark power, Unholy Rage. Hans does an additional hit for each attack. All right, and that also gives him a total of 2 health boxes. So we're going to place that card in his minor dark power area, and then we're going to load that with 2 health markers. And when we do any damage to Hans, we have to take these points off first. And when those health markers are gone, the Unholy Rage is gone also. Phase 4 is the panic phase, and that would be if a victim was killed anywhere on the board, any victims in Hans's space would panic. And we would roll a d6 for each of those panicking victims, and then we follow the paths on the chart from the space that they're at based on the dice rolls. So if there was a panicking victim with Hans and we rolled a 4, they would move to the fire pit. If the result does not appear on any of the paths that the area contains, then the victim remains where he is. Phase 5 is the upkeep phase, and that's where we would determine if the finale had happened. Well, it's not, because the tarot deck still has cards in it. And then at this point, it would allow us to rearrange items from our backpack to our hands. Some items are one-hand items, some are two-handed items, and then others don't have any hands, and those can be used from the backpack directly. Now we're going to start a new round, a new turn, and we'll begin with our action phase where we can play action cards. And I think I'm going to try, we'll start by playing a search. And that's going to allow us to potentially draw an item from that location. So we'll roll the number of dice allowed on the horror track and see if we can get any successes. We have 1 success and 1 failure. So looking at the card, 1 star, take the top item card at your space, and it'll cost us 1 time. So we'll move time down to 5, and we're going to gain the top item card from the utility shed. And that's going to be our Lucky Rabbit's Foot. Now this does not have any hands on it, so we can just place that in the backpack, and we can use that whenever we choose to. And it says here, I'm not the superstitious sort, but I'll take all the help I can get. Discard during the action phase to make a horror roll. For each star, choose one of the following: gain 2 time, heal a wound, reduce the horror, or move a space. All right, that's a nice little addition. And I think next up is we're going to sprint. So we'll make a movement roll and see if we can get some successes. We have 2 successes. Wow, I'm doing pretty good on the rolls for a change. So we're going to move. That allows us for 1 time to move up to 3 spaces. So our time will go down to 4, and now we can move 3 spaces, and we can always take along up to 2 victims with us. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to move this group 1, 2, and 3. And now, as you'll see here, there's a little green door symbol. That allows us to rescue those victims. And regarding saving victims, the rules reads, if at any point during the action phase you are on a green exit space, even if passing through, any victims that are in that space may be saved, whether you brought them with you or they were already there. If you decide to save them, and usually you will, place them on the final card at any available victim saved space, and then we're going to gain that advantage. So we've saved 2 victims, and we're going to be able to place those on Sheila's card and gain the advantages. I think the first one we'll use is to place it and gain 2 time, and it'll put us back up to 6 time. The next one is, I think we'll put it on, excuse me, on move 1 space. And that will allow us to move 1 space closer towards maybe the cabins, or to try to get in to rescue some of those other victims. So I think so far, so good. And I think next we're going to attempt to do another sprint. We'll play a sprint card and roll 2 dice. We have 2 successes. I cannot believe it. That's absolutely amazing. So that is going to allow us to move up to 3 spaces at a cost of 1 time. We'll decrease our time, and then we're going to move up to 3 spaces. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to move 1 space here, gathering the 2 victims, and then moving 2 spaces back and saving those 2 victims in the same turn. So we're going to move 1, gather the victims, 2, and 3. And we're at the exit, and Sheila tells them, there, go, that is the way out. So we've saved 2 additional victims, and we can place those on Sheila's card. And I think we'll do one of them to reduce the horror. That'll move the horror down to 3. And another one would be take the improvise action card. So we're going to gain the improvise action card. We'll add that to our hand. And that's going to allow us to potentially turn 3s and 4s into successes. All right. Now we have 2 close call cards and an improvise card remaining in our hand for the turn. We've already rescued a total of 4 victims. Now if we can rescue 2 more, that will allow us to flip the Sheila card to the back, and that is going to be like her ultimate power that she'll be able to utilize during the rest of the game. So I think we'll end the action phase here, and we'll move on to the planning phase, and we have a total of 5 time that we can spend. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase a distraction card for 3 points. Moves us down to 2 time, and we'll gain a distraction card. That is our 4th card in our hand. And we have 2 points remaining, so I think I'll purchase a search card for 2. Get us a search. That's 5 cards. So that'll allow us to take 5 cards out of the 0 cost action deck. We'll definitely be taking the 2 walk cards. and I think the 2 focus cards, and a weak attack. So that'll be should be a total of 10 cards in our hand. Let's make sure of that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we've got 10 cards. And that'll be our new hand for the next turn. We'll move our, reset our clock to 6. And we return any action cards in the discard pile. So we've got 2 sprints and a search card. All right. Move on to the killer phase, and Hans's killer action is to target either the final girl or a victim in his space and attack. Well, there are none, luckily. So we'll move on to drawing our terror card. And the terror card is revealed to be Hans wants me. He's always wanted me. All right, he's going to target the final girl, taking 2 movement actions and then attacking. All right, so we have to find out the shortest path from Hans to the final girl, and then he's going to take 2 move actions. Now his current movement is 1, so he'll be moving up to 2 spaces. The shortest route is going to be taking the path to the west. So he's going to move a total of 2 movements, which is 2 spaces, 1 and 2. And since he cannot reach the final girl, he's going to execute his attack in the space he's at. So he is going to claim a victim. And it's going to go into the dead pile. And that's going to raise the chart up 1. So his bloodlust marker has raised 1. He doesn't really gain any advantages at this point yet, but he's moving up eventually towards trying to gain his dark power if it goes up to a couple more slots there. This will give us the opportunity to use our gruesome deaths book, and this would be a general death. So what we'll do is we're going to roll a d6 and we'll read the general death for that number. Number is 1. The hapless victim screams, or tries to, as Hans lifts him up into the air. The teen grabs Hans's wrist to no avail. Hans drops his hammer momentarily to grab the handle of his cleaver, pulling it from its clutch. With a wide swing, he slams it into the teen's side, cracking ribs and slashing partway into the base of the lung. A river of blood flows from the gash, and the teen gurgles blood trying to scream, still unable to do so. Hans drops the cleaver and reaches into the cavity. He grasps the lung and, pulling it with maximum force, removes it from the now lifeless body of the victim. Hans raises his mask slightly and takes a bite. Snack time. Now we move on to the panic phase, and it says if a victim was killed this turn, panic all victims in the killer's space. So we have 1 victim here, and there was 1 killed, so we're going to have to roll d6 and then find out where he panics to. Okay, here is the roll. Roll is a 6, so he's going to move back towards the exit, which is an advantage for us. That's good. Next is the upkeep phase. There is no finale yet. We still have cards in the terror deck, and we get to rearrange items if we chose to. And I believe that's it. So that will end the round, the turn, and we'll move on to a new action phase. I think we'll begin the turn by playing a walk card. We'll make a roll, see what our success is, if any. Here's the roll. We have 2 failures. So a fail, we have a choice. We can either move up to 1 space, taking a wound, costing 2 time, or we can just burn 2 time. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a wound. We can afford to do that. That will allow us to move a space at a cost of 2 time. We'll move our time down 2, and we'll move 1 space. I think we'll play another walk card. We'll make a roll and see if we can get to the cabins. We have a partial success and a failure. So we could burn 2 cards in an attempt to get 1 success. And I think I'll use a close call card. It'll allow us to re-roll 1 die. We have a success. All right. So in that case, our 1 success allows us to move 1 space at a cost of 1 time. We'll burn 1 time, move a space into the cabins. All right. I think now we're going to attempt to do a search. We'll play the search card, and we'll get to roll 2 dice. We have 1 success and a partial success. So 1 success is at a cost of 1 time. We can take the top item from the space. The cabins is pepper spray. So I think we're just going to do that. We won't burn any additional cards. So we will take the pepper spray at a cost of 1 time. We'll move our time down to a 2, and we'll gain the pepper spray. Now this is a hand item, so it's a 1 hand, and I think we'll place that in her right hand. All right. That pepper spray is going to allow us to, we can use it, discard it, and that would immediately end the killer phase if the killer's in our space. So that would be good. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard 2 cards, a weak attack and a focus, and that will allow us to gain a total of 2 time. We're up to 4 now, and we have technically 4 unplayed cards: a close call, improvise, focus, and distraction. I think we'll keep those cards, and we'll end the action phase here, and we'll move on to the planning phase where we can purchase cards. I definitely want to spend 2 points and gain a sprint. And I think I'll spend another 2 and gain the other sprint card. It gives us a hand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. And that would entitle us to also draw any 0-point action cards. There's a short rest. We'll take that. Gives us a hand of 7 cards. And I think that's going to be the end of the planning phase. We're going to return our time marker to 6. And then these cards are placed back in the tableau. Next up is the killer phase. We'll start by activating his action, and he would attack either the final girl or a villain, a victim in his space. There are none. So we'll move on to the drawing of a terror card. And that card is revealed to be fire. Roll a die to determine which space bursts into flames. A 1, 2 is the cabins, a 3 or 4 is the utility shed, and a 5 or 6 is the dock. Okay, here's the roll. The roll is a 4. That's going to be the utility shed. All victims in that space are killed. Discard all item cards from that space. If you or an enemy are there, each lose 1 health. All right, the utility shed, there's no one there. So all of the item cards from the utility shed are going to be gone now, unfortunately. Those are gone. Put those back in the box. And that will not be a viable area for us to search any longer. All right. Next up is the panic phase, and no victims were killed during the turn, so there will not be one. And we'll move on to the upkeep phase. Well, we don't have a finale yet, and I'm happy with the arrangement of our items. So we'll end the turn and we'll move on to a new turn, starting with the action phase. And I think we'll begin the action phase by playing a sprint card. And we'll see if we can move those couple of victims from the cabin area. So we'll be able to roll 2 dice. Okay, here is the roll. We have 2 successes. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. We're going to move up to 3 spaces at a cost of 1 time. So we'll burn a time, and we can move up to 3 spaces. So we're going to take those victims, and we're going to move them 1, 2 to the exit. They're going to be saved, and then we're going to move our 3rd point back to this space. So we can place these 2 victims on our card. So we can place the victims. This will allow us to heal up to 2 health. So we are able to recover 1 health. We have a total of 6, and right now we have a total of 5. So we'll recover 1 health. The other victim is to take the long rest action card. So we'll do that. So we're going to gain the long rest action card. And now, since our card is filled with victims that have been saved, we can turn Sheila's card over for her superior ability. She gets no increase to health, but it does say 2 time instead of 1 when discarding action cards face down for time. That is great. For each additional victim saved, we would be able to reduce the horror level by 1. That is very, very good. All right. All right, I'm going to discard the short rest card, and that's going to earn us now 2 time. We get 2 time for every action card we discard, so we'll gain 2 time for that. That's great. I think up next I'm going to play the distraction card. That's going to allow us to potentially move the horror level down and possibly gain some time. So we're going to roll 2 dice and find out what happens. Here's the roll. We rolled 1 partial success, so we could discard 2 cards to do that, and I think we will. I'm going to discard the close call and the focus that I have, and that will allow us to turn that into a success. And that success is going to give us allows us to reduce the horror level by 1, and we gain a time. So we reduce the horror level down to 2, time goes up to 8. That's great. And I think we're going to end the action phase here. We have 3 cards remaining: improvise, sprint, and long rest. I could use that sprint card, I guess. That wouldn't be altogether bad. And then we could potentially save another victim. So I think we'll do that. We'll play the sprint card, and that'll allow us to roll 2 dice. Okay, here's the roll. And we rolled a partial success. So we could, I hate to discard these. I have a long rest and an improvise, so I don't want to do that necessarily. So I think what we'll do is we'll list it as no successes. We could move 1 space at a cost of 2 time. That would end our action round, and we'll take a wound. So I think we'll do that. So we move up to 1 space. We'll take the victim with us, moving to the exit and saving her. And now with our new ability here, it says for each additional victim saved, we get to reduce the horror level by 1. So now that goes down into the green area. That's great. That's going to cost us 2 time. So we'll move our time down back to 6. And then that is going to also cost us a wound. So we're at a total of 5 health, and that's going to end our action phase. It's a good turn for us. Now it's our planning phase where we can purchase action cards. We have a total of 6 time that we can spend. And I'm going to have to start planning now, I think, for possible attacks on Hans. So I think what we'll do is I could take a critical blow. That would cost all 6 for us. Yeah. Or a furious strike and another 2-point card. I think we'll go with the furious strike and a guard card. That'll be a total of 6 time points. That'll reduce us down to 0. And that will give us a hand of 4 cards. And then we can also gain any cards of the 0-point action deck. There are a walk, focus, and weak attack. So we'll gain those cards. That would be a total of 8 cards in our hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, that's what it is, 8. And then we're going to return the used action cards back to the tableau. So we have a distraction, a sprint, focus, close call, short rest, and another sprint. Okay. Now we move on to the killer phase, and Hans has no victims in his space, so his killer action will not be implemented. We'll move to drawing a terror card, and we'll see what happens here. I've gotten lucky with this so far. Terror card is Horrific Hammer Rush. If there are no victims on the board, discard this card and draw the next terror card. Otherwise, target a victim using 2 movement and make 2 attacks. For each victim killed during this attack, we raise the horror level by 1. All right. Hans's target is the closest victim, and that's going to be this victim here in the exit space. So Hans will move into the space, and he's going to, well, he would attack twice. There's only 1 victim there. So he's going to kill the victim, put that into the dead pile, and that's going to, for each victim killed during this attack, that raises the horror level by 1. So the horror level will go up 1, and his blood, I always forget the name of that, that's the bloodlust track. That goes up to 2. Now that also has another thing that happens, and that the horror level is going to go up an additional point now, so it's up to 3. That's climbing up pretty fast. Well, let's read about the fate of Hans's second victim. Simon volunteered to get more firewood. He trampled through the underbrush, searching for dry tinder. Finally, found some in a dark patch of woods, far from the camp. As he stacked the wood in his arms, he noticed a figure approaching him. The figure was moving fast, and soon he could make out the defined ridges of a steel pig mask. He stepped backward in a panic and tripped, falling on his back, dropping the wood. Before he could get up, the pig man was on him now and wielding a sledgehammer. He lifted the sledgehammer over his head with grace, landing the hammer on Simon's chest, crushing it into the ground in a spray of viscera. Next is the panic phase. There are no victims in Hans's space, so we won't panic, and we'll move on to the upkeep phase. The upkeep phase, we have no finale yet, which is good, and I'm going to keep our items as we have them displayed. We'll move on to a new turn, and we'll start with an action phase. And this is kind of a tough decision. My first instinct is to use our movement, the 2 walk cards that we have, to move towards some of the victims on the east side of the map and try to save them, since we have our new ability here that says for each additional victim saved, we can reduce horror. The other option would be to just go after Hans and try to get rid of that unholy rage before he attacks me. So that's kind of a tough decision of what I should do. Well, I think I'm going to try to save some more victims. We're going to use a walk card, and we'll make a roll and see what we get. We rolled 1 success. 1 success allows us to move a space with 1 time spent. So we'll move our time down 1, and then we're going to move 1 space, and I'll move towards the east. All right, I think I'll play another walk card, and we'll continue down that path. Here's the roll, and we rolled 2 successes. That is great. I'm really happy with my rolls. It's usually the opposite. 2 successes allows us to move 2 spaces for 1 time. Move our time down to 4, and then we can move 2 spaces. We'll move 1, picking up the victim, and 2 into this swampy space here. All right. We have 6 cards left: a weak attack, furious strike, guard, long rest, and improvise, and a focus. And well, I guess we could try a focus to keep that horror level in check, so we'll try a focus card. We'll make a roll. And we have a partial success. So I would be able to convert that with the using of 2 cards. And these are all good cards. I don't want to give them up. I think we'll just take it as a no success. That'll cost us 2 time. And I think we're going to end our action phase. We'll move on to the planning phase where we can purchase cards. We have 2 time available, and I think we'll use that to take a sprint card. Sprint card. That'll be 2. We'll reset that to 6, and then we place the cards that we used back into the tableau. All right, and that is going to end the planning phase. We'll move on to the killer phase. All right, Hans is in a space with no victims, so we'll move on to the drawing of a terror card. And the terror card is revealed to be... What's that noise? Let's go and see. If there are no victims on the board, discard and draw the next terror card. Otherwise, all victims move 1 space towards the closest enemy. All right, all victims move 1 space towards the closest enemy. So these guys are going to move here. These guys will move here. And these 3 people will move here. That actually helped us a little bit. And then Hans is going to target the final girl or a victim and attack. And then he's going to target a victim and move. Hans's move value is a 1, so he's going to move 1 space by the tennis courts, and that is the end of that terror card. I think we've been getting lucky with the terror cards. I don't know because I haven't played the game, but it seems like these aren't as bad as they could be. So that is going to end the killer phase. We'll move on to the panic phase. There won't be one. Nobody was killed. And then we go on to the upkeep phase. I'm going to keep everything the way it is. We have no finale yet. We still have terror cards left. So we'll move on to a new turn and the action phase. All right, I'm going to start out with a sprint. And I'm hoping to get at least just 1 move so I can get into this exit space. And we could save 3 victims. And that would move the horror track down 3. So we'll make a roll. We have 1 partial. So let's see what we can do here. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that. And I think we'll discard a guard and a weak attack. And that'll convert that into 1 success. And our 1 success on the sprint is move up to 2 spaces at a cost of 1 time. Move our time down 1. We're going to move 1 space here, rescuing all of these guys. All of them are rescued, and that's going to move the horror track down 1 for each of them. 1, 2, and 3. That is great. We have 1 movement point left, and we'll move, I think, into the space with these victims. That is great. I think I'm going to end the action phase here. We'll go on to a planning phase. We have 5 time to spend. And I think we have to start getting some attack cards of some kind. So I can't afford a critical blow. I think we'll take a planning card for 4. Moves this down to 1, and then a close call card for 1. That'll spend all of our time. We'll reset that to 6. And then we're going to place the used cards back into the tableau. A sprint, a weak attack, which is a 0 point. Should go here. And a guard. All right. Now we'll move on to the killer phase. Killer's action is to attack. There are no victims in his space, so we'll move on to a terror card. And the terror card is revealed to be, he wants fresh blood. If there are no victims on the board, discard and draw the next terror card. Otherwise, target a victim. He gets to move twice and attack. All right, well, he has victims right next to him. So he would move. And now that's where I'm not sure of. It says move twice. But it does say that, in other words, if you're in a space, you don't have to move any farther. He's already reached his objective. And then he's going to attack. That is going to kill a victim. It's his third. That is going to raise the bloodlust up by 1. All right, let's read about the fate of Hans's third victim. It was late, and Greg decided that he deserved a hot shower after a long day. He stood in the warm water, letting his mind go blank. His thoughts were interrupted by the creaky bathhouse door swaying on its hinges. "Hello," he said. He was answered by the sound of heavy boot steps and the scraping of something metal dragging across the floor. He opened the shower curtain to reveal a stocky man in a pig mask. Greg's eyes widened as a sledgehammer swung straight for his head. Oh! A splash of red caked the sudsy shower tiles and pooled in the drain like the killing floor of a slaughterhouse. All right, next up is the panic phase, and we did have a death, and there is a victim in Hans's space, so we're going to roll and see where that victim panics to. Roll is a 6. He is going to panic to the fire pit. All right. Next up is the upkeep phase. There's no finale to reveal, and we're going to keep our equipment the way it is. So we're going to start a new turn, beginning with the action phase. I have 5 action cards, but I have no movement ability. We have a long rest, improvise, furious strike, close call, and planning. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to just end the action phase where we are. And we'll move on to the planning phase. I have a total of 6 time. And I'm going to use that to purchase a critical blow card for 6. And we'll add that to our hand. That'll use up all of our time. We'll reset it to 6. And we can reclaim any of these free cards. So I can see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'd be able to take 4 of these cards. And we can take all of them. A focus, a walk, and a weak attack. All right, we'll do that. And then we'll move on now to the killer phase. Hans's killer action. There's no victims in his space. So we'll move on to a terror card. And we'll see what is going to befall us for this turn. He just keeps coming. Okay, the horror value is going to go up 1. We're still in the green, allowing us to roll 3 dice. Then Hans is going to target either the final girl or a victim. He'll move and attack. All right, now we have 2 things that are equidistant here. So we have a choice. There is a section of the rules called game ambiguity. And basically what this says is that we have the ability to choose 3 different methods of resolving ambiguous situations in the game. We have the rule of infinite evil, where we would resolve it in such a way that is the worst outcome for us. The rule of abject realism, resolve it in a way that results in the most realistic or thematic outcome. Or the rule of never-ending hilarity, resolve it in a way that is the funniest outcome. Well, we're going to choose the rule of infinite evil. We're going to make this as tough on us as possible. So I think with this result, Hans is going to move into the space with the final girl, and he's going to attack. I have no reaction card. So what that means now is Hans is going to do a total of 2 damage to us. So we're going to lose 2 health, which is not good. Actually, I think what I'll do is this. I'll return the 2 health. I'm going to use my pepper spray. It says a few squirts in their eyes and they'll think twice about messing with this girl. If the killer is in your space, you may discard this immediately to end the killer phase, ignoring any remaining movement, attacks, or any other effects. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we'll do. That brings the killer phase to an end. We move on to the panic phase. No one was killed during this turn. We can go to the upkeep phase, and there's nothing that we're going to want to do. We'll keep the rabbit's foot in our backpack. And now we'll move on to a new turn and the action phase. I'm going to start out by playing the improvise card. And that's going to allow us to potentially turn 3s and 4s into successes. Now we're at 3 dice now. We're in the green. We'll start out by rolling 3 dice. We have 1 success and 2 partials. All right. 1 success says that for the next horror roll only, all 3s and 4s are successes. I could turn that into 2 successes, and that would be for the till the phase ends. So let's see if we can get rid of 2 cards that we don't need. Well, I could get rid of, I think I'll get rid of a focus and a walk card, and that will convert another one of these to a success. So we've got 2 successes now, and that is going to allow us to turn all 3s and 4s during the turn into successes. So that is great. And now we'll see what we've got next. And I think we're going to play Yep. We're going to use a critical blow. So we get to roll 3 dice, and all of our 3s and 4s are considered to be successes. In fact, I think I'll put that card out as a reminder for myself. This improvised card will keep up here. All right, here is the roll. I hope we can do good. Oh my goodness, can you believe it? No successes. We're going to have to use our close call card, play after any horror roll, to re-roll 1 die or re-roll all dice for 2 times. So we're going to spend 2 time and we're going to re-roll all of those. Whoa. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness. No successes. Oh my goodness. There's not much I can do about it right now. Unfortunately, no successes is going to do 2 hits to Hans. We're going to take 2 hits. The horror level will rise, and that will end our action phase. There's nothing I can do about this. All right, the 2 hits on Hans are going to get rid of his unholy rage, so we'll get rid of those. Those are gone. We're going to take 2 hits as well, and the horror level will raise by 1. And then our action phase is ended. Oh, I had such a good chance on pounding him in the head, and we rolled no successes twice. That's bad. All right, that is going to bring the action phase to a close, and we will go to our planning phase. We have a 4 time available. And I think we're going to spend that 4 time to get a retaliate card. That'll give us a hand of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. And we'll reset our clock to 6 and then return these cards to the tableau. All right. Next up is the killer phase. He's going to target either the final girl or a victim, and he will attack. Well, using the rule of infinite evil, Hans is going to go after Sheila. So he is going to attack. He would do 2 damage. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play this retaliate card. That's a response card. And we can possibly ignore or reduce the damage that he's going to do. We're back up to 2 dice again, and we'll make a roll. We have 1 success, and we have a partial success. 1 success would reduce the attack by 2 and inflict a wound on Hans. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll play the retaliate card, and that is going to inflict 1 point of damage on Hans. And that's going to end his attack. Okay. Now we go on to the terror card. We'll draw that. That card is revealed to be, he just keeps coming. Horror level is going to rise by 1. It's up to 3. And then Hans would move. He'll target the final girl. He doesn't need to move. We're already in the space, and he's going to attack again. That's going to do 2 points of damage to us. I don't think I have any ability to stop that. No, I don't. So Hans is going to do 2 points of damage to us. We're down to 1 health. And that's not good. Now we go on to the panic phase, and no one was killed during the turn, so the other victims there will not panic at this point. We'll move on to the upkeep phase. There'll be no changes there, so we'll move on now to a new turn and a new action phase. I'm going to start out by playing the planning card. This is going to potentially get us some extra dice to roll. So we're going to roll 2 dice. That's where our horror level is. See if we can somehow get a success here. I've had some bad run of luck here. We have a partial success. If we don't change it, no success would be 1 extra die for the next horror roll. The horror level will go up and it would cost us 2 time. If we do, we're going to gain 2 dice for the next horror roll, and it would cost us only 1 time. So I think we'll try to convert that if possible. Well, I think we're going to discard our weak attack and walk. And that's going to allow us now to have 2 extra dice for the next horror roll. So we're going to play Furious Strike. That's going to allow us to roll our normal 2 dice plus 2 extra dice. And we'll see what happens. Okay, here is the roll. We rolled a total of 2 successes. That's going to give us 2 hits against Hans, and the horror level will drop by 1. Horror level is down to 2, and Hans has lost another 2 health, which is very good. All right, let's see what we have left here. We have a long rest card, and I think we'll play that. That's going to allow us 2 dice to roll. It's our last card. We rolled a partial success, so that's a failure. We could recover 2 health, which we'll do. We're up to 3 health. The horror level will go up 1. It's going to cost us 2 time, and that would end the action round. Okay, now we'll move on to our planning phase, where we can purchase some cards. We have a total of 4 time. And well, I think what we'll do is we're going to purchase for 2 points. We'll gain a guard card, and for 2 points, we'll gain a sprint card. All right, and then in addition to that, we can reclaim cards in the 0 cost action cards. There's 2 focus and a walk. That'll give us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. And then these cards can be returned to the tableau. All right, we'll move on to the killer phase. Hans's action will kick in. He's going to attack us. At present, he's going to do a total of 2 damage to us. Now, we have a card we can play. It's a guard card. And I suppose we'll try to use that. And right now we can roll 2 dice and see what happens. We rolled 1 success. 1 success will reduce his attack by 2, which means we will take no damage, which is great. All right, now we move on to the terror card. And here's the terror card. We're getting close to the end. He just keeps coming. All right, the horror is going to move up to 1, that's 4, and then Hans is going to attack us again, and it's going to be the final girl. I have no defense to that. So Hans is going to deal us 2 damage. We'll lose 2 health. We're down to 1 health. Not good. Now it's the panic phase. Nobody was killed, so there'll be no panic phase. The upkeep phase will come, and there'll be no rearrangement of anything. And we'll move on now to a new turn and a new action round. I think I'm going to begin by using my lucky rabbit's foot. I'm not the superstitious sort, but I'll take all the help I can get. Discard in the action phase to make a horror roll. For each success, choose one of the following. Well, we'll try it. We have no successes. If I could convert it, we'd be able to heal 1 point, but I pretty much need these cards. I guess I'll sacrifice 2 focus cards, giving us 1 success, and then that would allow us to, in this case, we'll heal 1 wound, so we'll get a wound back. That's good. All right, that rabbit's foot is discarded now. I think next up we are going to I guess I'll walk, because we only need 1 point of movement to get to the exit. We'll make a roll. We have a partial success. I don't have the ability to, I only have 1 card left, so we can't change that. So that's a failure. We could move up to 1 space, take a wound and cost us 2 time, or else just cost us the 2 time. I guess we'll take the 2 time. Now I'll play another card called Sprint. We'll try another roll. We have a success. All right. 1 success allows us to move up to 2 spaces for 1 time. We'll move our time down to 3. And we're going to move into this space where we are going to save 2 victims. That is going to lower the horror value by 2, which is great. That's going to end the action phase, and now we'll go to planning phase. We have a total of 3 time left. We're going to gain all of these 0 action cards. It's a walk, a weak attack, and a short rest. We're down to 2 health, so I think we have to try to get we can't afford to retaliate. I'll have to purchase a guard for 2. And I think 1 for the close call. We'll take a close call. That's a total of 5 cards. We'll reset our time to 6. And then our cards that we used will go back into the tableau. Killer phase is up next. Hans has no one in his space to target, so we'll move on to the terror card draw. And I think this is the last terror card. Hans wants me. He's always wanted me. All right, Hans is going to target the final girl. He's going to move twice. That'll be 2 movement points. That's sufficient to get him into my space. And then Hans is going to attack. As it stands, Hans is going to do 2 damage, but we're going to play a guard card that we picked up that will allow us to roll 2 dice. We have a partial success. partial success. A partial success would reduce the damage by 1 to a minimum of 1. I think we'll do it that way. So we'll take the 1 point of loss, 1 point of damage, and that is going to end the killer phase. We'll move on to the panic phase. All right, no one is going to panic, and we'll move on to the upkeep phase. I have no items anymore, and that will close out the turn, and we'll move on to a new action phase. I'm going to begin by playing a walk card, and my plan is I have a weak attack, but the problem is if I fail, that would end the action round. I also have a short rest card, and that's what I want to do, is kind of rest. So we're going to start out with a walk, so we'll be able to roll currently 2 dice. Okay, here's the roll. We have 1 success. Okay, that's all I need. 1 success would be 1 movement at a cost of 1 time. We'll move the time down, and then we're going to move to the dock. Move to the dock. And if I can, there's a flashlight available that might be helpful to us at some point. I don't have a search card at this point. So now we're going to play our short rest. Okay, here's the roll. We have 1 success. 1 success on a short rest is, for 1 time, we'll recover 1 health. So we're up to 2 health now again, which is good. I have a weak attack and a close call card. We'll be keeping those. We'll end the action phase here. Now we'll be able to recover our 0 action cards. That's a focus, 2 focus, and a walk. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, and we have 4 time available to purchase. So, Hans is going to come in. Well, now we're going to be going into a terror. The terror deck is empty, so that means Hans's finale is going to be revealed. All right. Well, I almost have to spend 2 on a guard. So we'll take that. And it leaves me with 2 points left. A search would get us a flashlight. Once per action phase, spend a time to look at the top terror card. Well, that won't help us too much. 2 points we have left. I guess it would be a sprint or a search would be all that we could get. I'll take the sprint card, I guess, for 2 points. That'll use up all of our time. We'll reset it to 6. These cards will be placed back on the tableau. And now we'll move on to the killer phase. All right, Hans is in a space by himself, so his killer thing will not enact, but there are no terror cards left in the deck, so that means that Hans's finale would be revealed, I believe. I'm going to double check that. Well, I looked at this a little more carefully. Hans's finale card should have been revealed during the last upkeep phase. So we're going to reveal that and then see what happens. He's got the card Bloodbath, and that means he's going to target the final girl or the a victim. He'll move twice and attack twice. So that's what's going to happen this turn. When his killer action kicks in, he'll target the final girl, moving into her space, and then he's going to attack twice, and that's going to do a total of 2 damage twice. So I do have a guard card, so I guess we'll have to play that. And we'll roll 2 dice and see what happens. I don't know. 2 successes. Ignore all damage. Okay, so that's the first attack. Now his second attack would kick in and we'll lose 2 damage. I don't have any other cards I can use. So we're going to take 2 damage. That's 1. And this could kill us here. We're going to have to flip that black health token and see what happens. I'm going to move the camera there because this is probably going to be more dramatic. All right, this is the second point of damage that Sheila's going to take, and we'll see if we're dead or not. Here we are. Oh, so Hans got us. Oh, boy. Well, let's read about what happened to Sheila. And this is the epilogue for Sheila. Sheila watched in horror as Hans closed on her with terrific speed. She was no match for him. Hans swung his hammer into Sheila's leg, and she heard a piercing crack. Her femur was shattered. Sheila screamed, and in a flash, Hans took the hammer to her neck, crushing her windpipe. Hans now turned his attention to the last victim in the fire pit. Well, that concludes our first playthrough of Final Girl, and I have to say, I cannot give this game any higher accolades than what I'm about to give it. This, from a solo standpoint, this game pushes all of the buttons. From a thematic standpoint, from a mechanical standpoint, and from a fun factor. It's absolutely amazing. I'll be absolutely getting the second season as soon as that becomes available. From my understanding, the Kickstarters are in the process of being delivered for the second season, and they're anticipating that the second season packs will be available in about a month. So I'm definitely going to be acquiring those. And I think that this is probably going to become a permanent addition to the channel. I'll probably have at least one playthrough of Final Girl per month, possibly maybe every other week. This game is that good, and I hope that you enjoyed this playthrough. I tried to do this as best as I could without having any playing experience. I don't think I made any rules errors. I'm going to double check that once I do post-production on the video. But I don't believe I made any major errors in the game. And it's really a fun game. I'm very impressed with it, and hats off to the designers and Ryder Games. Well, thank you very much for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough, and I hope to see you again soon back at the channel. Thanks, and have a good night.